What's going on, everybody? It's Sunday night going into Monday morning. You know what that means here on the 48 Minutes Basketball Network. It's another episode of the
Bitch
Bench
mob.
Mob! And our guest wants to leave already.
Oh no, I'm here for that energy.
Awesome. We're real excited. I'm Tim Daniel. I'm excited to be here today. We have an awesome guest. Before we get to that, we're going to introduce our excellent panel. As always, Sean is actually not with us. Sean is partying in the city where the heat is on all night on the beach till the break of dawn. So,
Okay.
yeah, he's in Miami this
Mr.
week.
Carmen San Diego himself. He always
always somewhere.
He's always somewhere, you know.
Always somewhere. Yeah.
That guy gonna see the world out here, you know what I mean?
So I'm gonna go as always. And my guy, my man, 100 grand, Mr. Ben Brown himself. How are you, buddy?
Brother, I am wonderful, man. Life is good. Gonna talk NBA hoops, you know what I mean, with my brothers. So we're just here for that action, you know what I mean? So absolutely, I'm down to go.
Perfect. So, our Jabari, you'll see that we do have Josh here, but I do not do the introduction for this. This is Ben's job. So,
my ace, my brother, my man, my number one, my ace Buku, Joshua, Odellis, Forellis, Montellis, Overzealous, Hayes. What's good, my brother?
What's going on, man? Just excited to be here Sunday night talking NBA basketball. Tim sent over the itinerary tonight, man, and the topics look pretty fire, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun. And like I mentioned, we have a really awesome guest. This is someone I've been wanting to get on the shows for a long time. If you have a Twitter account and you're not following this guy, you're doing it wrong. You're just doing it wrong. He is the one of the hosts of the NBA Baseline. Just started his new podcast called The Jab Step, part of the 19 Media Group. Check out our good friend on Twitter at Jabari Davis NBA. This is Jabari Ali Davis. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the Bench Mob.
Oh no, the pleasure is mine. I truly appreciate the invitation. I really do look forward to this conversation with y'all.
Absolutely. So for those who don't know, like I said, Jabari is an incredible Twitter follow. He's great to talk hoops with. He claims the Lakers like I do, unfortunately, as one of my two teams. So we'll have a little Laker talk a little later and just kind of get his thoughts on that. But also, fantastic for movies. Has a really good job doing that. So I know you're psyched for Spider-Man this week, right?
Yeah, it's funny as it is. The only genre I don't get into are the superhero movies.
What?
I'm not against them. No, this is the thing. I'm not against them. I'm just really late and really behind. So honestly, when it comes to those movies, you have to keep up. And I'm probably still on Infinity War. So here we are.
Yeah, man. I'm with you on that. Like, you can ask Josh. Like last summer during the pandemic, like we went on vacation. I was texting Josh. I'm like, we just started first movie one of Marvel, and he sent me the list. Like, you gotta watch them all in order. I'm like, man, this is a lot of pressure. You know what I
mean? It's a real commitment.
Yeah,
it's a real commitment.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
I do know definitely. So we do a podcast here occasionally called Hoop Cinema, where we'll like do a recap of a basketball movie. So I know 100% I want to have you on there for one of these. So
please do.
Yeah,
please do.
We're very excited, man. So let's go ahead and get to some topics, gentlemen. Like I said here, we got the itinerary. So first thing to talk about today is obviously some big news when it comes to Team USA. As Steve Kerr has been selected as the next head coach of Team USA. Adrian Wojnarowski went on to say that Kerr will be replacing Greg Popovich in 2023 for the World Cup and the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. Staff will include Monty Williams, Eric Spoelstra, and Mark Few. So, guys, curious to kind of get your thoughts here on this. I will tell you, obviously it's a great move. I think no one here is upset about Steve Kerr getting the job by any means. But I've been saying forever that I really felt like this should have been Jay Wright. And I'm not mad that it's not Jay Wright necessarily, the head coach of Villanova. But I did kind of want to really kind of dive into this, your thoughts here. Does this mean Steph Curry will finally play in the Olympics in your guys' eyes?
Yeah, one. Yes, I do. I do think that's a huge step, having his coach be the head coach. Now, I don't think he had anything against Popovich, but I do think having his guy there will make a huge difference. And two, I think the move is great for Kerr, but I think his staff is even better. So, you have a guy like Spoelstra who is, well respected in the league. Of course, obviously Kerr is well respected in the league. You got a guy like Mark Few who's built a program out in Gonzaga. If you've ever been to Spokane, Washington, there's literally nothing there. You're not missing anything. So to get guys to go to Gonzaga and play at that high level, he's doing things right. So his staff that he has is phenomenal, and of course, Steve Kerr. What else needs to be said about what he's done in Golden State? So it's a good move. I think guys like Steve Kerr is a NBA lifer from a player to a coach, and I think that it's a great move.
Yeah, I agree with the one thing I like about the coaching staff as I was looking through all those guys is if you look at their individual teams, you look at Miami Heat, the Phoenix Suns, Gonzaga, and Golden State, they all play basketball the right way. Mm-hmm. Every one of their systems are built to play basketball the right way, and I think that translates to when they take a bunch of guys in the summertime and say, hey, we're going to put a team together. You have a bunch of coaches that say, okay, we can adjust to like the playing style of every guy that comes into this team. And if Curry does play, I feel like that gives us a little bit of advantage playing international basketball with a guy that can play the way he does, which is something that we generally don't always have on that team. So I am excited to see how that comes about and the guys that are willing or wanting to play on the team now that Kerr is the head coach.
Yeah, and honestly, just to piggyback that, because each of you make excellent points. For me, it just felt like the natural choice. As someone in Steve Kerr that has not only proven himself, that he can obviously coach at a high level, but particularly, navigating rosters full of talent and different personalities. With my guys Warren and Cal over at Baseline NBA, we kind of speculated that it would either wind up being Kerr or Spoelstra, being tapped for the responsibility. So I totally get this move. Like I think it was the right choice, and I would be stunned if we don't see Steph in an Olympic uniform coming out.
At least once,
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah.
Like, just it would be so fun. So yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it's gonna be awesome. I really appreciated. So Kevin Durant was recently on Knuckleheads, and I listened to the pod, and I really appreciated when he kind of talked about. He's like, he's like, at the end of the day, he's like, we're still Team USA. He's like, I'm paraphrasing, of course. He's like, yeah, we lost that game. He's like, but we just went back to the locker room. We're like, okay, this is what we did wrong, and they figured it out. And he's like, we understand the world's catching up to us, but it doesn't mean we're not going to still go out there and kick your ass. Basically, is what he said. So
right.
I loved it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. They're still Team USA, and Kerr is the right man for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of go to. Oh, go ahead, Jabari.
Well, no, and I was just going to say, as much as I'm 100% on board with the world catching up, because especially considering where they were, say 92 when the original Dream Team came together, compared to now, it's night and day. And obviously, the NBA looks more like the world's game, at this stage. But ultimately, no excuses whatsoever. The NBA, Team USA is coming with all 12, NBA players. The rest of the world, at best, they've got 2 or 3, maybe 4, even rotational type guys on their roster. So I expect big things, and I expect these guys to carry success over.
Yeah,
I like it. All right, guys, let's get to topic number 2. It's finally sounding like it's going to happen. I still don't believe it's going to happen, but it sounds like it's going to happen. So, per Woj and Zach Lowe, the 76ers trade talks around Ben Simmons is gathering momentum in recent days. Much of the renewed impetus surrounds Wednesdays when 84% of the league becomes eligible to be traded because of all the offseason signings. But Portland has informed the 76ers that Damian Lillard is not available in trade talks and the franchise has no interest in moving him. So, look, we've heard this a million times now, right? Where Damian Lillard's like, look, I don't want to leave. I'm not leaving. But, if there's anyone that should demand a trade, shouldn't it be Damian Lillard?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this before. Like that franchise isn't doing anything to make them better. And he's a guy that's got so much talent and potential. He deserves to play with guys that are bought into winning a championship. Not saying that CJ McCollum and Nurkic and all those guys aren't bought into playing for a championship, but that roster's not going to – in the West, that roster isn't going to make any noise when you have an opportunity, you put him on that 76ers roster. I mean, with Embiid and Tobias Harris, that's a load in the East Coast, and I think you put those guys together. Now, of course, Lillard's going to say the right things because he's Damian Lillard. That's what he does. But man, there's got to be a piece of him that wants to go and actually have a chance to compete for a championship. So I think when push comes to shove, I do think that he'll want to make that move because everybody wants to win a ring, man. And he's had his shot in Portland. He's had some of his better teams in Portland, but they haven't made it out of the second round. So he knows, that people aren't coming out there to play with him, and they're not making any moves. So I think he'll change his tune and want to go play for a contender.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm going to be honest with you. I sat back looking at this for the last few years. Like, quite frankly, they should have moved on in one way or another, 2 years ago, if not even before that. But really, to your point, Ben, this is Portland just delaying the inevitable. Part of me, honestly, part of me wonders if the remaining hesitance to move Dame potentially comes from the idea that a new regime eventually is going to be taken over, and honestly wanting to give them the opportunity to make whatever big moves or, make whatever decisions, that are going to be made. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? Because honestly, if you're Portland, you were at your best. When you were at your best, you were still coming up short back when Stotts was probably maximizing the potential of that roster.
Absolutely.
Now you got a first-year head coach in Billups. You've had major shakeups in your front office and replacing your team president and in your GM, shortly thereafter, and your star is having one of the worst seasons, of his entire career, if not the worst. So, really, what are we doing?
Right.
Man, I think all of us have been wanting to see Dame go somewhere and be successful. A couple years ago, they had that team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we knew what was going to happen, and it happened. They got swept by Golden State, and you just knew that they didn't have enough there. And once Portland didn't commit to to either add more to that team, and then they regressed the next, you just knew at that point, there was never going to be enough in Portland for him to ever get over the hump to win a championship. So, how the speculations are. Trades say that this could happen, that could happen. But I feel like I would really like to see him go somewhere where he has a chance to win a championship. I don't know where that's going to be. I know, they're trying to make trades. Everybody's trying to get the Ben Simmons for Dame deal done, but I don't necessarily know if that's the right spot for him to go. I don't know what's going to be the optimum scenario for him, but I hope and wish that wherever he gets to go, that it's somewhere that he has a chance to play for a championship before his career is over with.
I got this weird feeling it's going to end up being like the Knicks, and I hate to say, no disrespect to Knicks fans, but that would not make them a title contender, but it would at least get them their guy. It would at least, and from their perspective, I could absolutely see them finding a way to make that, swing that.
Well, and it doesn't have to be this year. I just hope wherever he goes, he can go to a spot where they can say, we can add around you and make you the centerpiece, and we can put a championship team around you. And I mean, it very well could be the Knicks in 2 years. But Jabari, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about teams that were disappointing, and the Knicks was actually the team that I spoke of. How they got into the playoffs last year, and everybody was happy about the Knicks being, the mecca of basketball back in the playoffs, playing at a high level, and they came into this season and they're just flat. And I was hoping that it was going to get fixed at some point, and it just still seems like they're not in any shape, way, or form able to fix it at this moment moving forward.
Yeah, like you, I was at least cautiously optimistic heading into this year. I will honestly, and this hurts because I love Julius Randle, but honestly, that carrot's turned into a pumpkin in the postseason, and it hasn't returned. Like, it just straight has not returned. And I never want to say like, oh, okay, when players are playing for a contract, it's going to look different, necessarily after the fact, but for whatever reason, it does not look great. They not to derail. I realize this wasn't one of the topics, but just quickly,
finish. Great.
I realized, like they were banking on Kemba being able to be effective. That was not the case. They were banking on Fournier being able to come in and be effective. Some, up and down there, recently, more down than up. But, ultimately, what this feels like is they've got a lot of, honestly, I'm going to steal from Bouknight. They got a lot of low spades, or not even necessarily low spades, and they really need to go out there and find somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense in the case of, we talked about, the part of this is the Ben Simmons part of this. Well, like that totally takes the Knicks out, right? Because Daryl Morey is not going to be excited about, Kemba Walker for Ben Simmons or some bullshit thing that's just impossible. And
you don't want a package surrounding Mitchell Robinson? No. Sorry, Knicks fans. My bad.
Mitchell Robinson and Joel Embiid. That's the Ralph Sampson Hakeem Olajuwon of the 2020s.
One of the things that Tim and I go back and forth with is that the Knicks are so young and they have so much fun young talent on their team. Like they have the ability to be really good. And us being Bulls fans, we had Thibs as our coach for a long time. So like we know what we're going to get out of him when he's coaching the Knicks. He's going to, especially last year, he got everything out of the Knicks he was going to get out of them. And it
100%.
seems like this year has been kind of sluggish when it comes to that. And I know a lot of those guys are young, but I'm like, if they could just develop some of those guys, which we talked about, Emmanuel Quigley getting on the floor and just letting him run the point, because he's not going to learn until you get him out there. And we've seen him come in spurts and just be electrifying, but they don't play him enough. And, you got Obi Toppin, who's a high flyer, and, he's a hustle guy, and he does all the little things. And, you're banking all your, like you said, you're banking all your stuff on, Randall. And, you got all your eggs in a basket with RJ Barrett, who's not been playing well at all. And, until they get all those guys on the same page clicking, it's going to be a long season for them unless they figure it out.
Yeah. You're not lying.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I'm not going to ask anyone to predict where Ben Simmons is going to go because it's impossible. I do still really like the idea of the Cavaliers, but maybe a little less now that Colin Sexton's gone, because Colin Sexton, Ben Simmons could have been something that could have worked pretty well for both teams. But with what Cleveland has right now in Garland, I mean, just alone, if you have think about if you have Mobley, Jarrett Allen, and Ben Simmons in your defensive side of the ball, no one's scoring.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I hadn't. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, just quickly. I hadn't even considered Cleveland as an option, but I'm going to tell you right now. Look, while I was, lower on them than I should have been heading in, if they were able to land that without giving up any major, any major piece, that's not just a playoff team. That's a fun little team to watch.
Yeah, that is, man. That's stacked.
Yeah.
I've fallen in love with this Cavs team. I can't lie to you. As a Bulls fan, I've really gotten to love this team a lot. So they're a blast, man. Evan Mobley is one of my 3 favorite players in the league right now. So he's just awesome, man. I really love him. So from one of the teams that people love to watch to the team that these guys, Jabari, I'm really sorry to tell you, are really sick of talking about. But, you are a Laker guy, so I do have to ask you some Laker questions. So
no worries.
This is what we got right now. So the Lakers are 14-13 overall, but they do have a game tonight after we record. They're 5-0 this year in Sunday games. We onto something here? Should the Lakers petition to get more games pushed to later in the week?
I honestly think that's one of those anomalies. I'm going to be honest, just being straightforward. But hey, look, if this trend continues and they stay hovering around 500, but still undefeated on Sunday, yeah, maybe they need to push push the emergency button on that.
Yeah, I feel like LeBron has that power, right? If he's like, I don't know, guys, can we play Sunday?
Listen, I lean into the jokes when it comes to that, but I also recognize that there's some truth to those jokes when it comes to LeBron. I'm not saying my man is completely bulletproof, but he certainly has died some along the way.
Yeah. He's getting healthy. That's been nice. But I think the big thing everyone's kind of was looking at, and our other show shot callers talked about this Friday, at the beginning of the year when we were talking about this, we probably felt like the Lakers were a buyout market, but now it's not so sure. Maybe they're buying people out. But I don't think they're much of a buyout market. So if in your eyes, I don't know how much you've looked into this, if you have any idea, what, if any, outs does this team have to improve their roster? Because no one's taking Westbrook. And honestly, he's played well for a little while. He's played well for a few weeks. So it's like, you can't really, after the big three, it's like, I feel like you got to keep Malik Monk. He's been really good for them on and off. I feel like Austin Reeves has done a good job for them. But I don't really know what else they can really do besides, the Anthony Davis small ball 5 thing.
No, to a certain degree, they've painted themselves into this corner. Like, and they went for it. They swung for the fences. They've done that 2 consecutive off seasons. To be honest with you, and and what I'll say is this: I agree with you that Russ has been playing well. I agree with you on that. So like, this is not like a situation where you can just point the finger at one guy or one situation. It's kind of like an all hands on deck situation where everyone is simply going to have to be better. Russ and LeBron, while yes, individually they've been good, going to have to find a way that that it does not feel redundant when they're both sharing the court at a certain point. Especially when you get down to knock on wood here, that they're in the postseason situation where they're in a series. You can't have it where it's just like, okay, well, I'm going to hang back while you do your thing, and then they'll have to figure that out. Ultimately, I know that you've got a question about this coming up later on when it comes to AD. But ultimately, you've got a 28-year-old guy that's in his prime, or what you would anticipate being his physical prime, and they're absolutely going to need him to be that guy. Now, he can't, he's not going to be able to make up for everything, because the truth of the matter is the elephant in the room, the elephant in the corner is that when you move the guys like KCP, when you moved, Kyle Kuzma, when you moved, when you allowed, Caruso to escape, regardless of what situation was, when you moved all those guys, you lost a lot of your point of attack defense, you lost a lot of your defensive versatility, and now all of a sudden you're reliant upon basically your big three, get it done on a consistent basis every single night. And you're asking a lot of, vet minimum guys. You're asking a lot of low contract 1-year guys that are sitting there. And while, yes, of course they want to win, of course they want to, contribute to a winning product. Ultimately, this is not like a deeply invested, your roster. So you've got so much turnover and so much, going on that, quite frankly, they've really just backed themselves into this wall. I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying it's complete doom and gloom. All I'm saying is, their calling card in the past was a defensive-oriented, team that everybody played their position and everybody supported, the main 2 guys, and they no longer have that.
Jabari, I was going to ask you this. I am not a Lakers fan, but I do follow them for the sake of us doing the show. And I wanted to ask our 2 questions. Are we getting our leg pulled right now with them basically just coasting through the season to get to the playoffs? So. And I'm not questioning injuries or things like that. I'm questioning more of, do the Lakers really care where they're at when the seeding is? And then the second thing is some of those guys that you just mentioned, which was one of the topics we had a few weeks ago. Do you feel like any of those guys should have been a priority to keep on this team that were definitely contributors that could help fix some of those issues that are being caused right now? Because I think if everybody's mindset was looking at this Lakers team was put together and this was 2012, and you had the Carmelos and the Dwight Howards and the Westbrooks and the LeBrons, like, we wouldn't even be having this
74 and 8,
right
baby.
now.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. Like y'all would be tired of talking about the Lakers for a different reason.
Exactly.
That was the case.
All right.
But, no, honestly, to answer your question, Wait, what was the first part of it again? Sorry.
I said, are we getting our leg pulled? Like, are they possuming us right now?
Yes and no. They're out there trying. Like, I'm not gonna smooth this over and make it seem like they're not out there trying to win games. But the buy-in, okay, if they want to be a championship team, the level of buy-in that they've shown right now clearly is not going to get it done. Mm-hmm. My worry is that you play around too long, you're gonna mess around and find out. You know what I mean? You play around too long, and then AD goes down for an extended period of time, and then LeBron goes down for an extended period of time. And here's the thing: we saw what last year looked like when those guys were out. Honestly, it was a wrap. It was absolutely a wrap. In that Phoenix series. So ultimately, they have to get to the postseason healthy. And I understand, not necessarily pressing the gas, but you can't just hover around 500 and be in that play-in type situation. That's just not going to get done. it's just not going to be good enough.
One thing I want to mention, I know you said a lot of the people throwing that Anthony Davis slander out there, and I know we're going to get to this in a second, but I just want to throw this out there for people. I don't think people realize for the season he's averaging 24 and 10. His career averages are 23.9 and 10.2. And the year that they won the championship, he averaged 26 and 9. So I don't really know what's expected of the man. I know in droves they expect him to be this like dominant player, but like when you look at the averages across the board, he's shooting 52% from the field, and he's a little under his free throw average, but like all his other averages are either right at or above his career averages. So what is it that people are complaining about that the guy is doing on the floor that's not to the expectation of what people want from him in LA?
Honestly, that's a great question, and I appreciate it. Like this is the reality with him. First, it's heavy as the head. You know what I'm saying? Like, like what he showed in that championship run. Obviously, it raised the level of expectation, and we all, for the most of you, if you love basketball, we all thought he was a great player to begin with. But what he showed in that raised the level of expectation. But to your point, you're exactly right. He's giving you 24 and 10. He's people will falsely say like, oh, he doesn't want to play center. He's playing 70% of his minutes at the center position. People usually falsely say like, he's not necessarily available. Yes, he's out today. He was out last game, but for the most part, even though he falls a ton, don't get me wrong, he falls all over the place. He generally is available. No, that's one where we can't deny. My man,
he's on the ground. He's on the ground. He's on the ground a lot
with regularity. But here's the reality. Here's the reality. Regardless of whether it's fair, he knew the job was dangerous when he took it.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is. They have to see at least a consistent effort. And I'm not saying that, I don't agree with the nonsense that you see on Twitter. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm here for the jokes. I love the jokes. I make them most of the time. A lot of times there's a lot of tears coming, behind those jokes. But regardless of what you're hearing on there, it's not that he's been poor. In fact, he's been good in spots. They just need him to be great. And that's the expectation. And plus, let's be real. LeBron is a Teflon Don. So no matter what, you're going to get a certain section of fans that are always going to blame whomever the biggest target is outside of him. And like I said, you got to kind of have that confluence of things going on. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like Anthony Davis's expectations are so high that 24 and 10 just seems like it's like just not enough. And it's weird. I mean, I know Charles Barkley and those guys give them a hard time, which, I mean, you could take that and whatever you want to do with it. It's, 6 one half dozen the other, but it is kind of true. Like, I mean, he was expected to be the guy, and I don't know if the wins and losses have put more on him than really should be put on him. But the expectation, like you said, Jabari, is so high and so great that 24 and 10 is almost just not good enough for what they're trying to accomplish. Now, to another point, which is really, the biggest point of all, is that they don't have really anybody else outside of their big three that can do what those guys can do. So it's like their roster is strapped. My main thing is that I don't want to see them put this on Frank Vogel, because this is not. I don't believe it's anything to do with. This is the same guy that just won. He won the championship. It's the same coach. It's the same philosophy. You took guys. You took his roster. You took his defensively led roster and moved them out. You brought guys in that aren't really defensively oriented outside of Anthony Davis, and you expect him to have the same results, which is not going to happen. So, what are your thoughts on? I mean, do you think that Frank Vogel is kind of the issue here? Do you feel like he holds a lot of the blame, or is it more of the GM roster moves, things like that?
I think he can raise his hand for holding some responsibility, but far from the lion's share. Far from it. Like, so here's the deal. I won't use profanity, but it's tough to make chicken salad when you don't have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's tough. It's tough. And you know what? I'll actually answer Josh's the second part of the question in answering yours. They should have kept Caruso. And this is hindsight. This is 100% hindsight, because when it all went down, and then they said, and of course, the reporters that were kind of carrying water for the organization put out there, well, hey, if they had kept Caruso, that would have meant, it actually would have been $40 million per year because of the luxury tax and all of that. All of that's whatever. I'm not here as a billion, multiple billionaires accountant. They should have found a way to keep him. And so, like, if you're going to make that move to get Russ, then you have to bite that bullet, because let's be real, Russ hasn't been a defensive presence on the perimeter in probably a decade, and easily a decade. So, like I said, move out KCP, you move out Kuzma at the same time, and then suddenly you've got nobody that can defend big scores. You've got nobody that can that can stay with big wings, and this is the result. It's not Vogel's fault. He just hasn't been perfect.
Right.
Does losing a guy like Jason Kidd matter on your coaching staff? I don't know how much he pulled his weight there, but I know the coaching staff changed a little bit. And with those guys that were brought in, this team feels a lot to me like the 2011 Miami Heat team that lost to Dallas in the championship. Like the way it's constructed.
That's a good one.
It's 75% of the roster was turned over, including, you know what I mean? And to your point, while I don't necessarily know how much of an impact Jason Kidd made, it does make a difference when you also Jared Dudley. While yes, he was on the roster, he was he was in a player development type type role. So you substitute those guys out. Yes, there's a familiarity and a comfort there with Fizdale and obviously LeBron, but everybody else has to still make the same adjustments. Everybody else has to kind of get in where they fit in with that. I really do think this is a matter of, and I know that people will think that I'm just saying like, oh, you got to be patient. No, I'm the least patient person in the world, but it's really difficult to assess where they're at just given all of the different circumstances, that have kind of taken place with this team. LeBron being out 12 games. LeBron also being out, like one game for COVID, but that's, Teflon. That's Teflon Brian.
Right. You can't touch him. You know what I mean? You can't touch him.
All of those different things, I think are factors here.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I appreciate you kind of going through that with us, for the people who aren't like you and I and suffer through hate watching the Lakers every night.
Yep.
Yeah, God bless those people.
Giving away the GOAT was huge, man. I'm telling you, that Caruso was a deal breaker.
Oh, and he went to your team. I just realized that.
Oh, trust me, we love us some Caruso, man.
Oh,
yeah,
we love us some Caruso.
Naturally.
Yeah. That's the thing is, like, if you listen to the shows, you'll hear me talk about the Bulls a lot and the Lakers a lot. But like, instead of doing the you root for two teams guy, like I can tell you everything about both teams. So you're not messing with you're not messing with the right guy if you think I'm being a bandwagoner here. Trust me.
Oh no. Look, man,
I'm not saying you, Jabari. We talk enough,
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I'm not a gatekeeper. Like, people can fan however they fan, as long as you're enjoying it. Do your thing.
Yeah.
There's enough gatekeepers on NBA Twitter.
You aren't lying, man. You aren't lying. Talking about gatekeepers and fan bases who are insane on Twitter. The Utah Jazz. Oh my God. I don't know if you guys ever talked to Jazz fans on the internet. They're crazy.
Ooh.
They're insane.
Mm-hmm.
So right now they've won 7 straight going into today. They're currently 3rd in the West side, Phoenix and Golden State. Obviously, look, we know we've gone through this a lot, right? They're a really good regular season team. They always put these stretches together, and you want to buy in, right? You're like, oh man, like Donovan Mitchell's tremendous, and he is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. One of my favorite players in the league. You're like, oh, Rudy Gobert, he keeps winning Defensive Player of the Year. And then that doesn't show up because people just run pick and rolls on him in the playoffs. And then it's like, oh, Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, and he's tremendous, and he's really good. And Mike Conley's there. He's their veteran leader. It's like, but how do these guys keep losing? So where are you guys at with this? Do you buy in? Do you believe in this Jazz team, or is this same shit, different toilet?
Man, you brought up some great points, Tim. Like, it's hard. It's really hard to be all in with the Utah Jazz. It really is, man. Like I want to like them. And if you go back to our preseason previews, I said Golden State or Utah. Like, I like Utah. I want Utah to have success. But it's the same thing. Like they play really well in the regular season. They get in the playoffs and it's like it just falls apart. So I want to say a year older, a year wiser. Yeah, I'm buying in. I'm going to give them. I'm going to. Only reason is that this is a following year to them having some success, and I'm hoping that they've learned something from the failure of last year to bring it towards this season. So I do think, and their roster is incredible. I love their roster. I do. I love their roster. People see guys like Hassan Whiteside and Rudy Gay on their, all coming off their bench, and they've actually played really well.
Rudy Gay's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, so like I want to believe. I want to believe. I really do. So I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna say right now, I'll buy into the Jazz right now.
I just see Josh over there shaking his head.
I know. And,
you guys
know what?
First, first of all, Ben, I love you. So, and you know how much I love Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
how much of just a fantastic basketball player he is. But because of the Phoenix Suns and because of the Golden State Warriors and because of the threat of the Los Angeles Lakers, like I said, no one wants to play the Lakers. I'm telling you right now, if Utah's like, we're the 3rd seed and we get to the playoffs and the Lakers come in at the 6th, like it's a done deal. Like, I don't want to play the Lakers in the first round. I don't care who you are, like, because that team can be dangerous just off of LeBron and AD's back alone. I don't think that there is a chance if they were to win the lottery on top of playing basketball that they could beat Phoenix or Golden State in a 7-game series. So I can't buy in. Don't care how good they are. I don't care how good the record is. I don't care if they finish number 1 in the league with the best record. Like, they don't match up. And we saw that what happened last year. Like, the Clippers kind of got them when we thought they were hot. They came in and we were like, oh, Utah's got this in the bag. And the Clippers was like, nah, man, like, we got this. And, God forbid Kawhi comes back and can play, at some point in the season. The Clippers are a whole different team with Kawhi on the floor. So yeah. I'm not buying. I do think that they'll finish between, the 3rd or the 4th seed. I mean, if you look at the standings right now, I believe that they're in the number 3 seed and the next team is the Grizzlies, maybe. And the Grizzlies already have 11 losses. So like, to catch Utah is going to be hard, but I just don't see them getting to the finals and beating Golden State, especially when I'm hearing that Klay is going to play on Christmas Day and we're going to get Golden State at full-fledged here for the rest of the season. So I'm not buying. I am not buying.
Look, I absolutely do my best not to be just an obnoxious NBA fan that completely disregards extended regular season success. Because honestly, it does absolutely matter. And I do enjoy watching teams that are able to navigate, the rigors of an 82-game season. Because obviously, it is a grind. So all of that said, I said a whole lot of words setting up the fact that I just got to see it. I got to see it translate into a deep run. Look, straight up, I'm Missouri. You got to show me. Don't tell me about it. Don't tell me about, we won 70% of our games again. Show me. And to their credit, they've done a really, and I agree with both Ben and Josh. They've done a really solid job of putting pieces around Donovan and Rudy. They have great depth, and they finally have multiple guys that really can generate offense both individually and in setting up offense. Setting up teammates. Pretty much with any lineup combination. That they want to throw out there. So, all of that said, once again, put up or shut up. I'm tired of having this conversation. No disrespect, but yes, all the disrespect.
I mean, they have
not disrespectful yet, very disrespectful.
They have 10 guys on their roster playing double-digit minutes, and I was sad to see Eric Paschall leave from Golden State. I thought he's a guy that can come off the bench and give you some scoring on the second unit, and Whiteside, I mean, if you give him minutes, I mean, he's a guy that can go in there and get you a bunch of rebounds and blocks and stuff like that. Not really much on the offensive side. And then, you got the 2 guys of Gobert and Joe Ingles. I mean, what you're going to get from them just watching them play international ball. Bogdanovich is a dog. You've seen him get hot. Like I said, I mean, they have the roster. I feel like when they lost that game in the bubble in Game 7, and Mitchell missed that shot, or Conley missed that shot that went in and out. Like, I just don't think they've been the same since that. And even though they finished the season with the number 1 seed last year, like they got into the playoffs, they didn't look like they were the best team.
And now all Utah Jazz fans hate us, and they'll be attacking us.
They don't hate me. I got faith in them.
I see what you did there, man.
If it makes them feel any better, no one heading into last year thought that the Suns were going to be in the finals. Absolutely. No one thought they were going to be in that position. So anything can happen depending upon how things break out. No pun intended. It really can. So Utah Jazz fans, there's still hope out there.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that can stop the Chicago Bulls this year is COVID. So,
right?
Yeah,
Man.
Clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, if you listen to the Bench Mob and each and every week, Josh and I have been keeping up with this like Barry Bonds chasing the home run record. Steph Curry watch is on, and it looks like this is gonna be the week. So going into the week, Steph Curry sits just 7 3-pointers away from Ray Allen's all-time record. The Warriors will be in Indiana and Madison Square Garden this week playing the Pacers and Nets, but there are discussions to rest him Monday for the Pacers game. So, gentlemen, if you had to guess, will Wednesday night in Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball, be the place that Steph Curry breaks the record?
If they rest him, yes. If they don't rest him, I believe he will break it tomorrow.
I agree.
I think they ultimately rest him, and I think he shoots 80 of them. If it took that, it's getting broken in Madison Square Garden, the spot where the babyface assassin put up 55. Back in the day when he was still a babyface assassin, he's doing it at the Garden.
How cool would that be?
Yeah, I was
incredible.
Yeah, as much. I mean, as cool as it would be, for him to do it there, but man, in Madison Square Garden. Like that would just be incredible. I mean, that would just be incredible. And that place would be electric too, man. It would be absolutely electric.
It sucks too because I was ready to pull the trigger to buy tickets for tomorrow.
Well, yeah,
like, legit.
Yeah.
Until I heard they were going to sit him.
Yeah, so Jabari, we're 2 hours away from Indy.
Oh no! Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a quick drive for us. No, we're in the Cincinnati area. So.
Got you.
Yeah,
that would have been dope actually in the field. It's field house, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an old moment, but yes, yeah. That would have been incredible. But yeah, no. I mean, how far is the drive to Madison Square Garden?
It's no plane, trains, and automobiles. I'll tell you that much.
Gotcha.
That's Tim's territory right there.
Yeah, I got to cover in the Garden one time. I got to work the Big East tournament. It was
nice,
unbelievable, man. Nothing like it. So that brings us to our favorite segment each and every week, where we do our Bench Mob, Bench Gawds, where we talk about our dudes coming off the bench who did their things this week. And I actually made one slide for myself and Jabari because we had 2 guys from the same team. So first, Jabari is going to give a shout out to our guy, Kelly Oubre Jr. What made you go with our man, Kelly Oubre, for this one?
Yeah, my man has played so well for the Hornets off the bench over the last couple of weeks. He's actually seen his role and his minutes both increase, to the point where he actually started, a couple of games of late. It's clear that, Coach Borrego and his staff, feel like they found, like that he's found his groove with this group. And it's just really nice to see him fit in there. It's crazy to me to think that he's like the wily veteran there, but he really is. Admittedly, some of this increased role and responsibility probably comes from guys. I think it's the 3 or 4 guys, missing games in order based on COVID protocols. But he's absolutely answered the call. So props to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I went James Bouknight. He's a guy I'm a big fan of. I loved him at UConn. I saw his first college games in person in the Charleston Classic, and immediately went, all right, that dude's going to play in the NBA. Hasn't had as consistent stretch as Oubre, but the other night had his first big NBA game, had 24 points, hit 6 threes, was just a dog. I think that the talent that he brings and the skill set he has is going to translate so well. And I'm totally cool with like the Hornets kind of Trey Lancing him. And what I mean by that is like kind of letting him sit the bench and kind of get more comfortable in the league. But Bouknight's a dog, man. He's a scorer. And, if you play against him, I've seen him in person 4 or 5 times. And if you play against James Bouknight, you felt playing against James Bouknight. So my man, James Bouknight, welcome to your first bench, God. Kelly Oubre is actually a 2-timer. I picked him a couple weeks ago.
He's a 2-timer.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right, Benny boy.
My bench god is Cedi Osman of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs actually went 3-1, which is, a good thing about living in this area, which with the Cavs playing well, we actually do get some Cavs games on Fox Sports or Bally Sports, whatever you want to call it now. But to be able to, I was able to catch one or two of their games, and he is playing really well. I saw the Friday night game against the Wolves where he had 13 points, 1 rebound and 4 assists. And then I caught the end of last night's game. Actually had 18 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. So Cedi Osman, one of the fan favorites, one of Cleveland's favorites, and my bench Gawd of the week.
So let me ask you this as a Pacers fan.
Yes, sir.
I think I sent this to you guys the other day. I said the Pacers and Cavaliers would be perfect trade partners. And the Cedi Osman for Karis LeVert and whatever else you throw in their move. Because I think Karis LeVert's perfect in Cleveland. I think Cedi Osman would be really good as like a spot shooter in Rick Carlisle's offense.
Mm-hmm.
How comfortable are you with that?
I'd be pretty comfortable with that.
Okay.
I'd be pretty comfortable with that. I'd be all right with that.
All right. Joshua, I got your man here. Who we got today? As Jabari and I talked a lot of Lakers, and you just had to go with the other team in Los Angeles.
So I had sent you a list earlier of a bunch of guys, and Ben and I were kind of on the same wavelength. And then I put it down to 2. I was going to go with Brandon Boston Jr.
Dude, he's been so good
at first, but then I decided to go with Luke Kennard, kind of a hometown guy from Middletown, Ohio. And I'm going to go a little bit more in extreme. He started a couple games the last week or so. I wanted to pull up his stats for the year. So he's averaging 11.3 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists on 44% shooting and 45% from the 3-point line. But this last week, or even if we just take the games that he's played in December, he's going 16, 4, and 2, shooting 52% from the floor and 55% from 3-point range. And the games that they've inserted him into the starting lineup, he's I think the last game he played, he was 23 points and he hit 7 threes. So I don't think people realize that this guy, he is an instant bucket getter when he steps on the floor. He's really awkward looking, almost doesn't look like he knows how to play ball, but then he just steps on the floor and he gets buckets. And I've always
this guy is awkward looking to you, Josh.
New age Eric Piakowski.
Right. But he was a dog at Duke, and I would really like to see his minutes increase with the Clippers, because I think that he could give them some instant offense. Not really that great on the defensive side of the floor, but like that team sometimes struggles when you see Paul George get himself in trouble. Last year it was Paul George and Reggie Jackson were the two that kind of carried him in the playoffs. They had a couple of really big games from Terrence Mann, but they always needed that other guy to score, and he was the guy that could come in and give you some quick buckets in some really low minutes. I just like to see his role increase a little bit and average more minutes. I really think he could help them moving forward the rest of the season. So that's my guy.
I like it, man. I think he's been really good. Even though he's a Dookie. Yeah, we don't got to give those Duke guys love on here, but I guess we will here. Which, that's actually all this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, you still feeling the sting from the Lakers, the Laker matchup?
A little bit.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So that's actually all the slides we had. But Ben actually had texted and requested a topic to kind of get into, and I didn't put a slide together in time for it. But obviously, the news comes out that once again Zion Williamson has been shut down, and I know there's a lot of frustrations here. This is another one of those like I'm tired topics, but it matters. Unfortunately, it's kind of what it is at this point. He's been shut down. I guess his foot is not healing the way they thought it would. We've all seen the pictures of his conditioning issues. There's a picture like of him in the mall where like, I guess he looked a little like he looked slimmer.
He's fat.
But yeah.
He's fat.
I don't want to say this is a Sam Bowie and Greg Oden, but it's starting to feel like a Sam Bowie and Greg Oden.
Yeah. I would say this, like, Sam, it would make more sense to me because I do feel like this is just a lack of conditioning. Now, granted, he had a foot injury. Completely understand. You have your surgery. You try to heal from it the best you can. But, as an NBA professional and as an NBA player, you should have the pride in yourself to take better condition of yourself, knowing that extra weight is going to hurt whatever kind of rehab you're trying to do for your foot. It's a lot easier to rehab from a foot injury playing basketball if you're playing at 240 than you are playing at 285, 290. I mean, and that's what he looks. I mean, he looks huge. Now, granted, I've never seen him step on a scale. I don't know how really truly big he is, but if you talk to anybody that is rehabbed from anything, like the way that you take care of your body and the way that your body is built, you have to maintain some kind of weight level in order for your bones and your joints to be able to heal properly. To me, it seems like it's a conditioning issue on why he's having setbacks, because his body is just not meant to carry that much weight. So when you see him moving around, like they were showing clips of him, like highlights in Duke, like he's easily 40 pounds lighter. Easily. I mean, he's doing 360s. He's windmilling. He swatted the 3-point. Like he's easily 40 pounds lighter than what he is in the picture they show. So all that being said, it's a conditioning issue. It's a problem. He's going to continue to have this problem until he decides that he wants to take better care of himself physically. And that's the difference between Sam Bowie and Greg Oden. Greg Oden wasn't a conditioning issue. That was just dumb luck. And Sam Bowie's actually, happened in a game, and he just didn't recover very well. It wasn't a lack of conditioning. I feel like Zion could take care of this on his own if he chose to, as far as taking care of his body and taking care of himself. That extra weight is not helping him recover the way that he should be.
Yeah, I'll chime in here, and I'm a Zion fan. I'll make no secret about it. I liked him particularly because as a resident big dude, I was astounded by some of the athletic, his athletic prowess. But the truth is, I appreciate how just plainly you put it. He's not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
If he doesn't wind up getting on the court this year, for instance, which is a realistic chance at this point, he will have played in only 85 of 220 plus possible games in his first 3 years. I'm not trying, this isn't like trying to be all panicky. I'm being straight up. If he doesn't get this taken care of right now, his time in this league is going to be very short-lived. Very short-lived. So whether that's the Pelicans looking at their medical staff, their training staff, him getting a nutritionist, a chef, and just across the board, these are the steps that are going to have to take place. And it sounds crazy to say this about a 21-year-old or whatever, 21, 20, at the very most 22-year-old guy. Mm-hmm. But truth be told, you run around at that weight for an extended period of time, putting that much force on your joints, and all of a sudden you start having lower body injury after lower body injury. That's not, you're not going to be able to rebound. So again, Pelicans fans, don't be mad because I'm just saying what y'all are all thinking or probably have all said. My man needs to step away from whatever he's been doing and get serious.
Yep.
I wish that I was a fly on the wall somewhere, because if you guys have noticed during this whole entire time that we don't see video, you don't see pictures, and then people are trying to catch these snapshots of him and being like, "Oh, look how much weight Zion's gained." And I'm with Ben. I don't know if he's really that much overweight. I don't know if he's just a little overweight. I don't know if he's really put 300 pounds. I don't know what exactly is going on, but I know this. When you're that young and you have a metabolism that's that high, he literally could change the way he eats and ride a stationary bicycle, and lose weight. It'd be that easy. And they could have him in a sauna suit on a bike, for 40 minutes. And we're gonna get you on here to your foot heals, so you're not putting a lot of pressure on it, and get you back in shape that fast. So, I know in this day and age, there could be a lot of and I don't want to get into this as a whole, but like, the thought of being hurt, there could be a lot of mental things going on where he could be somewhat depressed, that he's like, man, I can't believe I'm not out on the court playing. But if I'm the Pelicans and I'm protecting my investment, he's shut down for the rest of the year until we get it right. We figure it out, like what caused the injury, what's going to keep it to where we don't risk injuring him in the future so that we can keep him on the floor and get him back to where he was last year, averaging 27 points a game, shooting 60% from the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, Josh, I totally agree with what you're saying. But I had to, like, when you mentioned the sauna suit and the stationary bike, I kind of laughed a little bit because it reminded me of, do you remember when Matt Hardy was the Cruiserweight champion in WWE? And like
Yes.
they were doing the thing where he was trying to cut the weight for like every match. So you'd be like on the exercise bike. That's what I thought of.
Unless we're all getting okey doked and they really have a timetable set for him to come back and he's legit pulling a James Harden on us.
I don't think that's the case. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but my man needs they need to get this in order.
Yeah,
this is legit. And look, I'll say it. I know what 300 pounds looks like. He's more than 300 pounds. Right?
See, that's what I'm saying.
I know what 300 pounds looks like.
I know what 300 pounds looks like. That dude he's 300 plus.
Yeah,
he's an Eminem shot from like 310. Like,
hey, rest in heaven to my man. But we had a young gentleman that played football around here named Jared Lorenzen, and he's a quarterback. Mm-hmm. He was a quarterback. Went to UK, played for the Giants. And He was a big guy, and he moved well for a big guy. But we were all like, man, how do you play at that size? Being in that position. And I kind of feel the same for Zion. Like they even was, experiment with him playing point guard. Like you can't play point guard at 6'6", or legit probably 6'6", 300 pounds. Like, he needs to get with LeBron, to be honest with you. Like he needs to go spend a couple months with LeBron and go on that plan LeBron's on, because LeBron's figured out a way to keep his body slim at 6'8", 6'9", and he stays around that 250, 260 range. And that's where Zion needs to be.
I think Jabari brought up a good point. It's taking it serious, and how dedicated are you to the game? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm making all this money and millions of dollars, and I'm supposed to be the franchise guy, like, am I going to take it all serious? Am I going to get a nutritionist? Am I going to build my body? Am I going to take my rehab seriously? So. To Jabari's point, like I just think that's part of it. I think he's a 21, 22-year-old kid, and I don't know if he has anybody around him that's can tell him straight up and be honest with him.
Think exactly about it. What I was going to say, Ben.
Think about it
around him.
Yeah, think about it. He's been a star since he's been 14. We've seen him on YouTube videos since he's been 14 years old.
Yeah.
So who's going to tell him that what to do and how to do and where to do and if he even listens?
He's 21, man. He's a baby.
Yeah. The people around him are saying stuff like, let's go get some more beignets.
Right.
Let's go, let's go do this.
Yeah,
let's get it in.
Man, I love her. I love hurricanes. Let's go. What are we doing?
Here's the thing, though. I could 100% be the guy that's like, yeah, you need to cut weight. But if someone's like, hey, man, you want to go get some jambalaya? I'm going to eat some jambalaya.
Right.
It's shrimp etouffee, some jambalaya, gumbo, all of it.
Yeah.
I think Louisiana boy here.
For real?
Yeah, my family's from Louisiana.
No
I'm
kidding.
I'm a first generation off a farm.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yes,
so,
sir.
Are you an LSU fan?
I am not. I grew up.
Okay,
I grew up in LA. I grew up in LA.
Good. Okay. Good, because I don't like LSU at these parts anymore either. So
I understand.
Yeah. I was going to kind of say one of the things that's kind of really, really interesting about Zion too before we close out here. So this guy's, like Jabari said, he's played 85 games. He's got a signature sneaker. He's been on the cover of 2K. And the Pelicans are doing this. A lot of people are investing in him. So I think that's what Ben goes with what Ben's saying is you need to take it serious because there's a lot riding on you. And I can imagine I cannot imagine it all being 21 years old and being like, hey man, no big deal. We put you in our video game. Mountain Dew. You're gonna be in Mountain Dew commercials with Zach LaVine and this, and get in shape. I think I would probably be like, wait, what? Huh? Yeah. I'm 32, and you say that to me, I'm gonna be like, I don't know, man. That's a lot of work.
And with all that being said, Tim, in those 85 games, I want you to think about this. His career averages are 26 and 7.
Unreal.
Shooting 60% from the floor.
Yeah, it's awesome. He's an unreal talent that I just want to see live up to what he's.
This whole situation reminds me so much of like Charles Barkley. Like remember when they got on Barkley back in the day about his weight, and there was a couple games where he played where he was pretty big.
Yeah,
but like when you saw Slim Barkley on the floor, like that guy was a menace. Like nobody wanted any of Slim Barkley.
Yeah, but
yeah,
go ahead. I was going to say Moses Malone.
Okay, yeah. He straight told him, "You're too fat, dog. You are too fat. Like, what are we doing here?"
Yeah, sorry. I mean, but that's what I'm talking about. Like Zion, does he have people around him to say, "Look, dude, like you can't play at 310. Like you got to lose weight." And I don't think he does. I think Jabari brought up a good point. Like I think he's got guys like, "Hey, man, anybody want Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles?" They're like, "Yeah, man, we in, man. Let's go." Like they all just they roll with it. Like there's nobody there. There's no veteran. There's no veteran on that team. There's no veteran on that roster. And truth be told, management's scared because they don't want him to leave. The GM's scared that he's not going to play. So everybody's is afraid of him to say what really needs to be said. Like, look, dude, like you need to lose weight, get in shape, take this stuff serious, and let's roll.
I'm just really scared.
When he's on the floor, when he's on the floor, like you said, 26 and 7.
Must see TV, man. Appointment viewing television.
I just don't ever want to get to that point where we see him getting into the tractor trailer or like Oliver Miller range.
Xavier McDaniel nowadays. I mean,
like when you compared him to Barkley, I'm not lying. I thought more like Oliver Miller in terms of no, not the skill, not the skill. I mean,
but
where's
body size? Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. Well, this has been a blast, Jabari. We're really excited you joined us tonight, man. So before we get out of here, I know you like to talk the movies. So here's I'm going to tell you guys a funny story of how I started interacting with Jabari. So I was at one point, this is last year during the pandemic, I'm covering a college basketball game. There's no fans whatsoever at the time. Jabari shows this clip on Twitter that I guess he retweets of this little kid at a birthday party where all these kids are jumping on this guy dressed up as Thanos, and they're just doing kids just playing. And this little kid, I guess, saw Infinity War and was like, "I'm gonna get you back," because this little kid straight up goes to the guy dressed as Thanos and kicks him straight in the head, full-fledged Vinatieri's him. And I am they're the national anthem. It is pitched. It is seriously, you could hear a mouse just squeaking going through that place. It was so quiet. And I see this clip pop up on my tweet deck as I'm during the middle of the national anthem, and I'm doing everything in my possible. You definitely hear the So from there, it's oh man, I was this is my guy. So
I actually remember that tweet. I appreciate. Look, I just like to have fun. Look, we're all living life. We're all dealing with life. Let's have some fun when you're where we can.
Yeah, exactly. So Jabari, tell the world where they can find you, find your podcast. Are you still doing Never Meet Your Heroes, by the way?
I had to put that one on hold because that works better when they have a co-host, and my co-host had to drop out. But that's kind of where the jab steps in. But honestly, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys. I really do appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate conversing with each of you. This was a fun conversation, and I look, you now have a new fan of your show. So I look forward to it moving forward. Easiest way to find me is on Twitter, Jabari Davis NBA, or 19mediagroup.com. We have a full lineup of shows, some really dedicated content creators that I strongly recommend.
Perfect.
Awesome, man.
Well, thank you all for tuning in so much to this week's edition of the Bench Mob. We had a blast putting it on for you. We know next week is our last episode for the holidays, so we're probably doing a little NBA Christmas preview, maybe talk some NBA Christmas memories, maybe some Christmas movies. Sean will be back then, so I'm sure that'll pop up. So thank you all. We had a blast tonight. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.